Audio Jungle.
Oh yeah! What do you get when you put four of the most opinionated grown-ass single men on one show? You get the middle-aged, still single podcast! Let's meet the crew!
Audio Jungle.
Mitchell! Nazir!
Audio Jungle.
Nemo! Big Rob! Let's get it! Welcome to the third installation of the one-on-one from Middle Age Still Single podcast. Tonight, I have an old friend of mine, Mr. Mitchell. Mitchell, how are you tonight, sir?
Robert, always good to see you. Always good to talk to you. I'm fine. Looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Right, we're about to get deep. I got 20 questions for you. Are you ready to go?
Throw 'em my way, my friend. I'm ready.
All right. All right, sir. First question. Tell me something about your childhood, sir. You know what? In all the years I've known you, we never really talked about your childhood. So give me a brief snapshot of what Mitch's childhood was like.
My childhood was fantastic. I grew up in a time and a place that I could be out past the streetlights. You know, there's all those silly memes on Facebook, but what it really comes down to, guys our age understand that growing up in certain areas of the country, you could go out on your bike after school, after homework, or whatever the deal was with your parents, and disappear. And they didn't worry about you. There was no cell phones. Your parents had maybe your best friends' phone numbers that they could call the other parents. But for the most part, we weren't home anyway because they were out with me on the bikes, right? And we just had to be home before the street lights came on, or soon thereafter, right? Unfortunately, as a young man, I didn't appreciate the freedoms that I had and how great it was, because as I've gotten older, a lot of the friends that I have now didn't know what I was talking about. What do you mean you stay out till dark? You know? But it was California. It was the Bay Area, East Bay, and it was a small little tiny suburb tucked away next to the water. Almost forgotten. Wasn't even incorporated. But it was riding my bikes. It was I got a great story for you. But I had a brother. I'm the youngest of four, and I didn't really know my oldest, and my older brother and my older sister. My older sister ran away because she didn't like the stepfather, but my older brother kind of raised me, and we're 7 years apart. So I grew up with his music, and I grew up with his friends, and so I grew up kind of fast in terms of society. I was experimenting with pot when I was 9. Didn't like it, but I learned how to blackmail my brother, and I learned how to smoke it. Fortunately, he had a good head on his shoulders, and he understood my curiosity, but he steered me away from it. But I just had I had a lot of freedoms. I got really lucky in a lot of cases. Did a lot of stupid shit, but because of the little tiny suburb we were hooked in, there wasn't a lot of presence, police presence or anything like that to catch us being drunk in public at 16 years old. You know, just dumb stuff. So I've been really fortunate, and I recognize it. But it was a healthy, lucky, but fun good time.
Okay. So, this podcast, we're going to talk a lot about relationships and, and finding that special someone. Mitch, tell me about your first love, brother.
First love, I was 20-something, 23. She was stunning, really, really attractive Filipino woman, Filipino American, but she had a lot of the Filipino culture, skin color, eye color, and but that's not what really attracted me to her. Yes, she was physically attractive, but she was articulate and driven. That woman knew how to work. She knew how to work hard, but she also knew how to work smart. And I tried modeling myself after her while we were dating, and I couldn't understand. I didn't have a lot of confidence since I was younger, so I was an introvert in high school. I didn't mention that. I had all that bike riding I mentioned was 2 to 3 friends. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was very introverted all the way through high school. Left the Bay Area for Reading. Really came into myself. Got some confidence in an acting troupe I was in. Met Sherry, and Sherry opened my eyes to what real women should be like. A woman that I was attracted to. Someone who was feminine and beautiful, but yet driven, strong-willed, knew what she wanted, and went after it, right? Didn't hold it over anybody. She just knew what she wanted. She didn't care what anyone else did. She didn't care if she was better than someone else. She didn't care if she was better than a man or another woman. She was just focused. And she helped teach me my inner drive without her even knowing it. So I would have to say my first love would be Sherry in Redding, California.
Okay. So as long as I've known you, we've shared a love for travel. How did you develop your yearning for travel, bud?
Wanting to leave my house constantly. So I had a great childhood, but there's a caveat to that. I grew up on the East Bay, which within my social unit made me an Oakland A's fan and an Oakland Raiders fan because that's where I grew up. And then my mom married a guy from the peninsula. And for those who don't know what that is, that's the West Bay. That's across the bay. That's South San Francisco and down. And he was from South San Francisco. And I don't know if it was so much that I didn't like him because he was a replacement or at the time. I mean, I know what I didn't like about him now made sense, but he would not allow me to watch Oakland games on his television. So I grew up watching San Francisco games. I actually lost a little bit of where I was going with this, Rob. Can you share the question one more
Travel,
time so I know where I'm going?
Love to travel, brother.
So, yep, that was the backstory. So it turns out I really didn't like the guy. It started off with that, but it also started off with he just didn't like kids. And so I would leave as often as I could. And then it turned into weekends away. And then it turned into weeks away visiting my dad in Reading, which was about back in the 55 mile per hour days, that was like a 4.5 hour trip. That was a long 1.5 day trip. You'd leave Friday, get there Friday night, have Saturday, have part of Sunday, and then drive all the way back, right? And then in high school, we did a grad night trip to Disneyland, which was amazing. And then I just started seeing what my parents' friends were doing. So my parents' friends were from the peninsula and had a little more money and they could do all that travel. And so when they would come over for either bridge night or holiday parties, Passover, my mom put on Passover dinners and Hanukkah dinners every year. I would hear about all these travelings, this Europe and the Mediterranean. And so I focused on it right then and there. And then in my 20s, my first I did a lot of states trips, but I did my first international trip to, I guess Mexico would have been first, but my first non-parent operated was Australia. And that's all it took. That's all. The 15-hour flight had me hooked before I even got there. And I was hooked.
All right. So, but before we leave the young years for Mitch, when you were a kid, man, what did you want to be when you grew up, man? Like, what was your aspiration?
I was all over the board. All over the board. I mean, I think there was a time where I wanted to be a truck driver, which goes back to the guy across the street who showed up in his brand new sleeper, and it was the biggest sleeper at the time. I'd never seen anything like it. And all the kids in the neighborhood got to go inside and check it out. You had a little black and white, those little portable TVs are about this long. I don't know if you can see that. They're about this long, right? Mm-hmm. And he had a little hot plate stove in there and a bed, and there was like a bunk, and he had clothes hanging up. It was like a little tiny New York apartment. And when you're 10 years old, it's like the coolest thing ever. I'm like, I want to do that. And then that fit in with my travels. Like, I'll be on the road all the time. That'll be great. Then you get older, and I started playing Little League, and I thought, baseball would be great. And I was one of those really oddball, weird kids, probably because I was undersized. But I never thought I had a major league, debut coming or even a shot at a college team. But I just thought minor league ball, traveling around on the bus, would be a phenomenal, not money-making way to make a living, but just fun. And there was a couple of baseball movies that I really enjoyed growing up, of the old minor league teams traveling around the country. I don't know. It's oddly, I only have one title in my head, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it. I can't remember some of the other ones. Bingo Long and his Traveling All-Stars was one of my absolute favorite movies as a kid, and it had to do with traveling. Everything I really loved, all my favorite movies, was traveling, and so yeah, that's where that came
in. All right, so I asked the other gentleman. So as far as the podcast is concerned, right? Want to know like how you see yourself. Like, what do you see your role as? Like, Nas is the smooth one. He's the ladies' man. And Nemo is, as we saw a little earlier tonight, he's the comic relief. I'm kind of the sensible, kind of the glue guy. What do you see yourself as, bud?
Confused. I think you're all mixed
confused.
Up. You think Nemo's the comic relief? I got to step up my game, man. You think you're the voice of reason? Good Lord.
I think so.
So this is where I'm at. This is what I think. I think I'm confused. You know what? I hadn't thought about it. I wanted to bring some humor to the show. I wanted to bring some energy to the show. I can share with you what I do for a living. I can share with you what I did in the past. I can share with you what I've learned in terms of how to get to the future with budgeting and investing and things like that. But I haven't really yet defined myself. I think I know where I want to go with it, but I just haven't really honed it in. I really haven't chiseled it away, but I would like to be the one who brings some of the energy to the show. If Omaro is going to be the comedy relief, then I'm going to have to just be the energy guy. I got to find a way to bring energy to the show. If nothing else, something I have thought about and I think would be fun, I've got it in my notes, devil's advocate. I think I could really turn a couple of these podcasts upside down with a simple sentence. I think I can set you all off. And I think that'll make it fun for me.
All right. So that kind of leads into the next question here. Like, what do you hope to gain from the whole podcast, man? Like, what do you hope, when we look down into the future, what do you hope, this podcast becomes for you?
Well, for me, I hope it becomes a bond that glues the four of us together. I've known you for 20 years, Rob, but I've only known Nasir and Omaro for maybe 4 or 5 months. And in that time, in the 2 weeks I actually spent with them, the rest of the time has been online. And I really, really have enjoyed what's growing here. And so first and foremost, I want to build a solid friendship. I want to build a foundation, and I want to create some memories through this podcast, through random calls, texts, emails, and traveling, obviously. I definitely want to travel with all of you as often as I possibly can. But I also want to bring some content to other single men in our age group that are kind of lost. They've got here and they just don't know where to go, or they got here, they just kind of rolled into here because they didn't know this is the direction they were going, because they don't really have any direction. I would love to provide enough content to give them some direction. I would like to help, even if we just help one guy, right? One guy or 2 guys find a way out of a rut and change their life. I don't remember the name of the philosopher, but he said, you don't need to change the world. If you change one man's life, your life is worth living. If we can just help a few people, if we each help a few, or if not more, obviously I want to help as many as possible through social media and the availability of getting in front of a lot of people, and teach them how they can do the things they never thought they could do, whether it be on a budget or whether they decide that they want to leave their jobs and start a new career because of something that we've done. I want to help others find a way to take this 4th quarter of life. And some of these guys who don't know yet, not only will be in the 3rd quarter, they might live to 100 something. I want to teach them how to enjoy it instead of working our butts off. I want to teach them how to have a plan. I want to get out of this of helping others, but I want to do that with you and Nasir and Omaro. I work better. I've learned in my life, I work much, much better with partners or a team. There's guys out there who can do things on their own and want to do things on their own, and they want to rule the world, and that's great. I'd rather rule the world with partners. And I'm looking to build this to create a foundation of giving. And I think the 4 of us can give a lot.
So the 4 of us, the time we spent time together, we were in Colombia for 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun. What was your favorite moment from that trip to Colombia?
Wow. Favorite moment in Colombia. That's a difficult question, because I have a favorite moment with the 3 of you. I have a favorite moment of playing tourist around Barranquilla. I have another favorite moment because I got on 2 separate occasions, I left the group and went and did my own thing in Cartagena, because we got rained out in Cartagena. I had to go back. I had to see the history of the walled city. That's the core of my being. I love culture and I love history. And so being in Cartagena and not being able to see a 500-year-old city and what it was based on and why it was based there and what made it strategic, I had to go back to see that. So that was a huge point. To narrow one thing down would be almost impossible. My trip to Minca out of Santa Marta was uniquely spectacular. So here I am in a South American country known historically for its drug trade and violence. That was a long time ago, but that's still the history that hangs over. And I take a trip out of a perfectly beautiful beach town with a lovely marina and lots of restaurants and bars. And I take a lovely lady and we get in a car and we drive 2 hours into the jungle. And then when we get to this little town, they say, "Oh, you can't take the taxi up this next road to Minka, Sierra Minka. You have to either transfer over to a 4-wheel drive or take a motorcycle." So now we're in a 4-wheel drive vehicle going 4 miles an hour. It took us an hour, 8 miles, it took us an hour to go 8 kilometers. So that's about 4 miles an hour. The whole time I'm thinking, I'm not coming back. My guide, who you both know, Jimena, is a lovely, beautiful young woman. The people I met in Minka, the town where we switched over to the 4-wheel drive, some of those guys, they looked a little rough around the edges. And look, I'm no pretty boy, but I'm certainly not rough around the edges. And at any one time, they could have had just about whatever I had on my possessions. So I am bouncing on these old Inca roads that were later widened and carved out, not knowing where the hell I'm going. And we get to the top, and I am overcome with 40-mile views and vistas all the way to the ocean, and I'm in the middle of the jungle on the top of a mountain. And this place is a hostel/hotel, has an infinity pool with a bar. They have these huge nets that are like 1,000 square feet, and they're set up on the precipice on the edge of the hills. And you just walk out on there, and you just lay on them, and you look out over the lay of the land, and it's absolutely an incredible soul-searching experience. And I could have spent the entire weekend there. It was really, really spectacular. Now, I had a really great time with you guys in Cartagena. I have a lot of memories I probably shouldn't talk about here on the show. We rented a great penthouse. We had a great time. We had cigars and whiskey and music, and it was phenomenal. Views that you can't explain. The beach was there, which we didn't spend much time at. So I had a lot of favorites, but I have to categorize those favorites. But obviously, I spent so much time on Sierra Minka. Minka was really the highlight. And I would encourage you guys to spend a day and a half or 2 days to come with me next time we go out there and spend the night in Minka. That's a challenge
In Minka.
and an invite. In Minka, yeah.
Okay.
Phenomenal.
All right, so let's talk about, the guys. We kid you because I guess your predisposition to young women, right? If you should meet and have a relationship with a younger woman, are you still open to having kids right now, Mitchell?
Well, let me say, I don't know that I have a predisposition to younger women. Other than like every other red-blooded heterosexual male who wants to live in his foregone past and wants to look. But it just so happens to be that my guide to Minka happened to be young, and yes, she was friendly, and we had a great time. But as far as finding someone to date, create a relationship, and move forward with, grow old with, no, I'm not open to having children, and I'm not open to anyone young for that matter. I want someone who's lived life, understands the pains of life. If she has children, great, preferably grown and out of the house, or just preferably grown. They could be living at the house. What I liked about Columbia is the strong family ties, the strong family institution. So, grown or not, if they're in the house, that's fine. But an older woman closer to my age would be preferable. Someone who has the freedom to move about like I do, because I don't want to settle down, right? And give up my travel experiences. So the person I'm really looking for is going to have some freedom to get up and go when I can go. And if that has to happen because of some of my successes and that I make it happen, then so be it. That's okay. I want to find someone who I can call my best friend. I want to find someone who I can laugh with. Laughing is the most important thing to me, next to travel. And we need to be able to travel together and create those memories. So no children at this point.
All right, good. So when I met you, you were in a different career. You were in the gaming industry. We worked together at a casino. How'd you get into real estate? What happened there? Why'd you choose real estate as a new career?
Well, going back to one of the previous questions about what I wanted to be when I grew up, I kind of left it off as truck driver. I had a lot of different dreams. My dad was a hugely successful businessman. He was in the hair care business for many years with Germac. I don't know. Maybe you guys have heard of it. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends on the age. It depends if you were really into that. But my father and the chemist of Germac branched out and created their own hair care company in the late 70s. And it was hugely successful, went international within 5 years. And Dad sold out and just decided to want to be a small-time entrepreneur in Reading. He was a big fish in a small town in Reading, and he started multiple businesses. And he was my hero. He had created an international business from a very small Northern California town and lived a really great life. When I left the Bay Area after high school and moved in with him, I moved into this 4,500 square foot, 3-story A-frame at the top of a mountain that I could oversee the entire North State. It had a 2,500 square foot deck and a 4-car garage. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I just thought my life was set, right? And then he sold the company. And before he made me CEO. Darn it. My life could have been very different. But you know what? If it had been, I wouldn't have met you. So there we go. So I always wanted to go into business. And it starts with management. It starts with people. It starts with getting to know people. You have to know people. Dad could have never done that if he didn't work in the industry itself. So I was in the groceries business for 13 years. I moved up very quickly, but kept getting, when I was going up for store director, the company would sell and they would bring in their own. And then it would sell again when it was my turn to apply for store director, and it would sell and they'd bring in one of their own. And I got tired of that. And so I went into the casino industry. So they were building a casino. At the time, I used to make jokes that I'm going in the adult entertainment industry. Called my mom. I remember that was really great. I remember that phone call. Mom, I've decided to leave the grocery business. It's ridiculous. The hours are terrible. I'm going into adult entertainment. Well, we were talking about a proud Jewish mother. That was a fun conversation. I wish I had it recorded. I got to tell you. But I went into the casino industry and ended up working similar hours, but they were a little bit better. And it was going to be my 2-year vacation job while I figured out what I wanted to do. I was in my mid-30s at the time. And I didn't find that job for any other reason that I just wanted out of the other job. The grocery business had turned very ruthless, low profit. I wasn't going anywhere. I'd met enough people and it wasn't getting me anywhere. So I got there and I met a lot of great people, you being one of them. As a matter of fact, the only thing I miss about my time in the casino is the people that I met there. However, I'm still in contact with a lot of those people. I've made some very, very good lifelong friends. So while I'm there, this is the long version. I apologize. You can cut me off at any time when I get too wordy. But I was a supervisor, and I was in one of the pits, and one of our high rollers came in on a regular basis, and he would drop 50 grand a weekend playing Pai Gow. And he would always be telling me about his stories in Vegas and how he would come here to see his kids who lived in the Sacramento area. He'd stay for a couple nights, and then he'd go to Vegas. And then before he went back home to either Hawaii or Taiwan. Well, after about a year, coming in 3 times a year, he reached out. He asked me, he said, "Hey, I'm going to Vegas tomorrow. Would you like to join me?" Of course I would. But that broke some violations. That broke some rules of the casino where, as a supervisor, I couldn't accept, which would be considered a gratuity. Well, I turned him down 4 times. And I thought for sure the 4th time I was never gonna hear from him again. Well, he did come back in, invited me again. I stepped behind my dealer, shook my head yes, and told him no. And the next day, I was on a flight to Vegas with my friend Steve. Steve was a real estate developer. He'd spent the 70s and 80s in my town, Carmichael, Sacramento, developing. And he was from Taiwan, went to Princeton, worked here. And he said, "Mitch, you're better than this. Let's get you into real estate." And so he put me up in one of his houses for a couple of years. And while I studied for the test and got my career started. That's how I got into real estate. We'll talk about those Vegas stories later.
I've heard. Yeah,
You've heard a couple of them. Phenomenal.
So speaking of travel, right? So middle-aged, still single. One of our goals is to travel together around the world, right? If it was your choice, if you got to choose this next trip for all 4 of us to go, where would you take us?
Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Why?
No, I'm kidding. If anyone who knows me knows that I can't stand the heat or the desert unless it involves palm trees, drinks with umbrellas in it, and lots of ocean. I have absolutely no interest in the Middle East except for studying and history and that. I would like to go to Indonesia. I would like to go to Bali. I would like to go to the Maldives. I would like to do the South Pacific Islands. I would like to do Guam, which is an American territory. But I would also like to jump off and do some of the exterior islands of Japan, the exterior islands of the Philippines, not the proper, like most people. I'm going to go to Japan, right? I want to do that too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a little bit more. I'm a scuba diver of 38 years. And so a lot of what I want to do has to do with what's in the ocean around it. So, and I haven't been to a lot of the places that I want to go. The South Pacific has some of the best diving in the world. I would love to go to South Africa and Johannesburg with you guys. But those, actually, there's an island off of Madagascar I think we would have a really good time with, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from Thailand. Just saying. Southeast Asia is another place. But you guys are going without me this month just because that's the way it's got to be. But if I were to narrow it down, honestly, if I were to narrow it down and for us to have a really good time and all 4 of us find the things that really, really would strike us or change our lives, it would be the South Pacific Islands for sure. I don't know. I know you're not a certified diver. I'm not sure about Nasir or Omaro, but most of those places will give you a 2-hour course and you can do shallow dives. it'll change your life. It absolutely will change your life.
All right, let's change it up a little bit here. Let's talk about. So, what's your biggest pet peeve about women, brother? The one thing about women that just drives you absolutely nuts.
Pass. Or is this not a game
No.
show where I can say that? No pass here.
No pass, brother. No
God,
pass.
If you know what,
Nope.
you know what's funny about this is because I can't get Nasir's face out of my head because I just have a feeling he's just staring at me and laughing at me right now. I don't know if he got this question when he was doing his, but I know he's really enjoying this moment while I'm floundering in my chair right here. What really ticks me off, huh? Wow. You know what I don't like? I love the idea of feminism. What I don't like is the parade of eviscerating men of their manlyhood, but then being all upset when they have to split a check or when they have to purchase or when the man is supposed to be paying for everything. Now, if I offer, fantastic, right? She's got nothing to complain. I've got nothing to complain about. If I offer to pay for everything, it's my date, right? But if it's a mutual decision, or if she's been eviscerating me about, or because of her politics that, you know, fairness this and fairness that, which I firmly believe in, but then gets upset when I ask her to split the check, which I got to say, I kind of do for devil's advocate reasons, but it proves a point, right? I want fairness all the way around, and they should too. Now, to generalize all women for that, no way. I won't do it. I've only met a few that have said or done or acted that way. In most cases, I've not come across that. Most of that I see it on social media, but I don't have to have the personal experience for that attitude to really drive me nuts.
Okay.
I don't know where you
This
are.
is a question that I got.
I'm looking around, but I know you're proud of that one. I just know he's smiling wherever he's at right now.
So I asked this question of the other gentleman. What's your favorite romantic comedy?
Gosh. You know, I go from one question where I criticize women for emasculating men, but I could probably name 4 or 5 favorite romantic comedies. I'm emasculating myself right now. 10 Things I Hate About You. I liked Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, both Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks movies. There's one it's a Matthew McConaughey, Kate Hudson movie, and I can't think of the name of it. He's an advertising exec, and she works for a magazine. I can't think of the name. 10 Reasons to Lose a Guy, or 10 Ways to Lose a Guy. And then there's another one that probably most people don't know about. It's Renee Zellweger and Renee and Ewan McGregor. It's Down with Love, and it's a period piece where they go back into the 60s, and I think it's probably 20, 25 years old by now. A lot of fun, just all the misogyny you could possibly get with a strong woman kicking his ass all the way, through the movie. It's pretty funny. And then there's let's see, let's throw one more out there. Come on, romantic comedy. Who doesn't love Deadpool? That's right. You can call it an action adventure, but that is a love story. That is a love story, and it is a love story. And if anyone listening to this podcast is screaming or typing or about to type in Titanic, stop right now. No, that is a horror story. Only women find that to be a love story. Men are like, no, that guy died. That is a horror story. Anyway, rant over.
All right, brother. So listen,
Did I cover that one, Rob?
I'm gonna hit. Yeah, bro, I got you, brother. I got you. Hey, I'm gonna hit you in a different kind of spot right now. So when I first started hanging out with Mitch, Mitch had he had a girlfriend. She was about 6 foot tall, beautiful black woman, right? So for if you don't really have good vision, Mitch is none of those things. He is not beautiful. He is not black. And he is not 6 foot
Even
tall.
if you have
right?
bad vision,
So
you can tell that.
So let me ask you a question, Mitch. As a white guy, when did you develop a love for the sisters? How about that? It's been something like, growing up, did you love Pam Grier? Like, when did that happen, man?
That is a fair question. And that goes deep into the psyche. So we are who we are for things that we're unaware of when we were children. So psychologists say. And I believe a lot of that. I mean, we are a product of our environment. We're a product of our parents. We're a product of our friends, right? Well, my dad's second wife was black. And as it turns out, as a young man, I had no idea about it other than that my mom, my second mom, was a black woman, a beautiful black woman, and fun and artistic. We got to paint in her house, and if you dropped paint on the carpet, she didn't care. If you knocked over a glass of milk, she didn't care. She was just so in the moment of creating. Her whole house was a studio. We loved going there. All the kids loved going there. It didn't last long. And that's a whole nother story. When they split, they were friends. It worked for both the reasons why they did that. And then I went and I grew up. Like I said, I was an introvert in high school. I didn't do hardly any dating, if any, if you would call it dating, in high school. But I was always, say, in movies and TV. I had a lot of women that I liked. I had Cheryl Tiegs and Farrah Fawcett posters on my wall, right? I had I think I even had a Raquel Welch. I think I'm that old. I think I had a Raquel Welch poster on my wall, even though she was probably well past that. Just saying. But at some point in my 20s, I was very attracted to cultural women. And I wouldn't just say it was isolated to black women. It was women of a deeper skin tone, which would include, Southeast Asian. It would include Latino or Mexican. And that was where my attraction was. And my first love was Filipino. She had that beautiful, glowing dark skin. The Asian eyes, right? I can only attribute it to that first introduction when I was, however age I was, pre-10, I guess. 6, 7, probably between 7 and 9. And it's just never gone away. I find all women beautiful in their own way, white women as well. But in terms of attraction, which it starts with looks, I mean, you could meet someone and really enjoy their time, but it starts with attraction. And you look across the room and you go, wow, she's pretty. I want to get to know her, right? So there you go. I'm saying a lot. I apologize.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to preface this with a warning. So I'm gonna need you to be brief on this because this next question, we don't want to get too deep on. All right.
Okay, you can cut me
See,
off
now you
at
got
any
me
time.
saying, Mitchell. So, where do you stand politically? Politically, very briefly, tell me about your political beliefs.
Why do I feel like the whole world's like leaning in right now? I am currently a registered independent. Which rounds it out because I have in my early years been a registered Democrat, and as I got older, I became a registered Republican. For the last, how old am I now? For probably the last 10 or 15 years, I've been a registered independent. I am fiscally conservative and I'm socially liberal, and I'm torn all the time, because part of my upbringing and part of my family communication skills and the way we interacted, we look at both sides of everything. And yeah, feelings get hurt, but we never stop listening to the other side. I never try to convince someone of one way or another. I just try to share a perspective. And when someone's talking to me, I hope that's the same thing. I just want, give me an opportunity to see your side. Don't expect anything from it. And that's the way I speak with them. I think social media has really given a voice. This is going to sound really bad, and I apologize ahead of time to a point. I think social media has given a voice to people who really shouldn't have a voice. And by that, I mean people who are angry and aren't willing to open their minds, right? We got people here with that I find that really only have courage to say something online, but they don't have courage to say face to face. So I'm really torn with the way people treat each other nowadays. A lot of my friends, I'd say they're split right down the middle. I'd say more than half my family are registered Democrats, and I'd say my friends, my sphere of influence, are split right down the middle, Republicans and Democrats. And that's another drive that makes me want to leave the country and retire somewhere else. There's just so much anger, and social media makes anger easier. And I'm just not an angry guy. Yeah. I love to have a discussion, even if it gets a little heated. I love to share ideas, but I'm just not a confrontational guy. I believe in respecting others, and I don't like where it's going. So that leads into my travel. That leads into why I want to retire overseas.
Okay. All right, Mitch, I'm going to ask you to do an exercise for me here. All right. I want you to close your eyes for me, brother.
Okay.
All right. Close your eyes, and I want you to take your time, and I want you to visualize in your mind the perfect woman. All right. Just think, the perfect woman. All right. Yeah, I see the smile. All right. And absolutely, this is the dream woman right here. All right. Are you ready? I'm going to ask you. Now, keep your eyes closed. I'm going to ask you some very specific questions about this woman. Let me know when you're ready.
All right. Go ahead.
All right, Mitch. How tall is she? How tall is this woman, Mitch?
She's between 5 foot and 5'5".
Okay. And approximately how old is she?
She's probably between 45 and 55.
Okay. And what is she wearing right now?
A bikini top and a sarong. She's barefoot, but she's got flip-flops in her hand.
Okay. In her hand. Okay. And what's her skin tone?
Mochaccino. She's Very tan. She's
Mochaccino.
yeah, mochaccino. Yeah,
All right. And what is it? What does the hair look like?
black.
Okay, just jet black.
Jet black. It's long. I'd say mid shoulder length. Long enough to do different things with, but not so long that she's stepping on it when she's walking.
Okay. Now, while you're visualizing her, anything else stand out to you? Anything very specific that stands out to you?
She's got a natural smile, and by that I mean her resting face is a smirk or a smile, which kind of leads to a picture of her soul as far as wanting to just be happy and laugh.
All right, bro. All right. 2 more questions, man. We're almost done here, brother. All right. Now you can reopen your eyes.
Can I open my eyes?
Now you find the perfect woman, man. Yeah, bro. Please do, bro. So you find the perfect woman and things progress nicely, right? And it's time for the wedding. And she's going to let you choose the wedding. She's going to let you plan the wedding. What does your wedding look like, Mitch?
Oh, small, intimate. Myself, her, probably no more than 10 of my closest friends. And I'm sure there are some friends that won't be able to make it because it'll be on a beach somewhere that someone has. It'll be a destination wedding, right? And unfortunately, the truth is that some of the people I want there just simply won't be able to afford to go there. And that's the sad part. Part of the goal is for me to make enough money that I can fly my friends there. The other sad part is that because of my advanced age, and by the time I find this woman, none of my family will be there because I'm the youngest. So, no, on a more serious note, I'll have some family members there. But yeah, I really couldn't tell you because a lot of that has to do with decisions that she makes. And since I haven't met her yet, I don't know. And what you had me describe with my eyes closed had nothing to do with who she was as a person or her intelligence. So really, I only kind of know what she looks like. I don't know what kind of person she is yet because your questions didn't cover that.
But I'm just looking for your choice. I'm looking for don't draw too much into it, brother. Just your choice.
All right.
All right.
No, my choice.
Last question,
my choice
Mitchell.
would
Last
be,
question. Oh.
All right.
Last question.
Are you waiting on me because of the lag time?
And just no. Just for your information, you may be the youngest in your family, but you're the oldest of all the middle-aged still single brothers here.
I am. Is there a question here, or is that a statement?
Yeah. No. Here's the question: age 60, right? Which is not very far for you. What do you want your life to be at 60? When you turn 60, paint the picture of your life, Mitch.
Bitter, remorse, angry, jealous of all you bastards.
So you're saying a lot like it is now?
Exactly like it is right now. No, it's funny you use that number as a benchmark because that's the benchmark for retirement. I am currently on a 5-year path that I started 6 months ago that would enable me to retire earlier than the American retiree should retire or can retire. And retirement doesn't mean not work. Retirement means being able to walk away and having to work. but yet still managing assets, blah, 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 but having a lot more free time, right? So while you stiffs are still working, I'll be able to call up Nasir wherever he's at, laughing at me somewhere probably, and we can go grab a weekend in the Caribbean. And when that's done, and we're talking about you guys all weekend, I can come by and swing by and pick you up, and we can go somewhere that you want to go. That's the freedom of 60. That's what 60 looks like to me. Because honestly, when you think about life expectancy and when you think about genetic health issues, like I've got to treat every day right now. Nah, I'm going to be around for at least 40 years. Never mind that thought. Because my birth certificate has an expiration date, and I'm not going to die until I'm 94. Cheers, motherfuckers.
Cheers. All right, that's the perfect way to end this 20 questions, brother. That's it. What's funny is, you know somebody for years and years and years, and you sit down and ask them a couple questions, and I learned a lot about you tonight, man. I appreciate you spending the time. I think the people that watch this podcast are really going to enjoy you. I think you bring in a certain, a definite energy and a definite lack of skin tone to our podcast, and that we really appreciate.
I'm working on that. I just bought a tanning, 5 tanning booth shop pieces. I don't even know what I'm saying. So I think what they're going to get out of this is that I drink too much and that I can't stay on task. Because that question about what I wanted to be when I grow up, I got the truck driver and then I got sidetracked. I didn't tell you about half the other things I wanted to be, and I had to ask you to repeat the question a couple times.
All right.
So I think what I've started here is I'm going to have to not only have a bottle of scotch with me on every podcast. No,
get that.
I'm going to have a lot of fun. We can definitely make that happen. No, I'm having a lot of fun. I might have made probably more jokes than I should have, but I'm very sincere that I'm really looking forward to growing and building this foundation because this is a good group of guys. I wish I was there with you in August, Rob.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.